Welcome to The Other Side of the Bridge with Iron City Paranormal, where they discuss real investigations, first-hand experiences, unexplained moments, and everything that happens when you step off the regular path and onto the other side of the bridge. Just honest paranormal talk, Iron City Paranormal style. And now, here are your hosts, Derek Smith and Dan Metelsky.
There are moments when curiosity urges us to take a leap of faith, even when we have no idea what's waiting ahead. A bridge is the physical embodiment of our curiosity taking over, allowing for our passion for the unknown to drive us forward. A bridge is where we leave solid ground behind, and for a moment we're suspended. Suspended between what we understand and what we don't. The transition between where we feel safe and where we lose control of our own destiny. Tonight, we're crossing that bridge together. Welcome to the other side of the bridge. We're not here to tell you what to believe. We're here to walk with you across the bridge and into the unknown.
At about 2 a.m, we were sitting there on the balcony of an old church in Windsor, Pennsylvania, when suddenly the front entrance doors started shaking violently. They weren't tapping, they weren't creaking, they were shaking. It was like somebody grabbed onto the doors and violently shook them to the point where you could almost feel the entire building moving underneath us. The problem was, we were the only people inside the church. Welcome back, Yins, guys. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the other side of the bridge with Iron City Paranormal. I am Dan, and this is my ghost brother, Derek.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And tonight, we're going to take you across the bridge once again to an investigation from about 5 or 6 years ago.
Time's flying.
Oh man, it really is. This location was the American Renaissance Church in Windsor, Pennsylvania, just outside the Johnstown area, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's kind of like the best waypoint there is right outside Johnstown. I know we had to pass through it. Kind of know you're close whenever you're cutting through there.
Yeah. So this is another really this is another cool little. Let's call it. I don't know. Should we dare to call it a case study?
I mean, we were only there once, unless
we were at this place.
You're thinking the whole town, huh?
Yeah,
I see where you're going with that.
The town of Windsor. We have investigated there 3 times. Mm-hmm. One in this church. It's an old church, right? It's a former church, no longer.
1800s.
And then we did 2 investigations at the Grand Midway Hotel, which is one of the coolest darn places in Pennsylvania.
It really is.
And we'll get into that much more later on. But we're going to kind of like create an investigation sandwich around actually having the owner of these 2 locations on during next week's episode.
Windsor sandwich.
Windsor sloppy, gross, greasy sandwich of paranormal shenanigans, with the meat of that sandwich being a live interview with Blair Murphy, who is the owner of both locations.
Former owner of this one. But
former owner of this. Okay, I forgot.
Just to make sure the record's straight there.
Okay, yeah, we do want to keep it accurate. So we're going to have him on next week to talk about this location as well as what he's doing at the Grand Midway Hotel. And then we're going to get into a 3rd episode the week following, where we start digging into the Grand Midway Hotel, which is...
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and it's a very eclectic environment, very eclectic building. Can't wait to get back into that one. And like I told you, like this is so fun to talk about these every week, because just feel like it brings back the feels, right? It brings back the time we spent at these places.
There's always something so different. Like eventually
So
you think it
much.
would start to be the same old thing, but not once has it ever felt that way. I mean, it's everything is so different. And then
Mhm.
you start to visit all these places and you start to get to know them, and it's just it's such a really cool I don't want to say unknown, lesser known town. With kind of a history of its own.
Yeah, and this town, I apologize for those that are from this area. If there's anybody listening in Windber, PA, I apologize for what I'm about to say. I had no freaking idea this place existed. I've
Well,
been living in. I've
I
been
don't
living
think
in.
anybody does.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Pittsburgh at this point for 33 years before we did this investigation. Didn't know it existed.
Mm-mm. No, and it's too bad too, because it's a really nice small town. They've got some nice restaurants there.
Mhm.
It's I mean, you look at the Grand Midway, and man, that's got to be bringing people in. You talk about the Grand Midway, you talk about Windber, and it's a lot of people have heard about it, and
Mhm.
I don't think that there's a lot of publicity around it, which is unfortunate because the whole town is so cool. But
Mhm.
with these places in particular, they should be talked about more. I say lesser known, and it's too bad because I think there's a lot to be had in this small town.
Yeah, so let's talk about what this town is.
Yeah, I mean, so it's your almost stereotypical small town of Pennsylvania, right? Where they had their coal mining boom in the late 1800s, and
Uh, Coal miners.
there it is again, right?
Oh.
Every time. I mean, and it's just such a huge immigrant population that was just coming in from all over, mainly European. But yeah, they kind of came from everywhere. Eastern, Southern European, I believe, if I'm getting that correct. I'm sure Blair
Mhm.
can correct us on a lot of that history. But if you think about it, whenever there's a boom like that, what comes with it? You get the workers, you get the families, you have to have some kind of social activities. And back then, what was one of the biggest social activities that you could have? It was
Mhm.
churches.
Oh.
It was a huge point, and you think about it too. That's when there were so many different religions kind of
Mhm.
coming together, and they were on every street corner. I mean, I think we touched on that with the whole Ambridge thing,
Mhm.
back in that time, and it's the truth. There were so many. There was a church on every street corner, and every religion was accounted for, and the people just flocked to them. That was their entire Sunday was built around these churches, and I mean, it's also Windber, so what else are you gonna do? But
And churches used to be so different,
oh, they were.
even when we were kids versus back in the early 1800s, right? I mean, you didn't have you didn't have these big restaurants to go hang out in like we do now. Wasn't social media to keep in touch with people. There weren't phones to reach back and forth to your family as much as what we have now.
That was their
Um,
social area. You're
It
absolutely right.
was, and these people, especially immigrants, right, a lot of them coming from Italy and Poland, Germany, into the area, into the Pittsburgh region, and Windber is about an hour, I want to say, outside of Pittsburgh. It's not far, but these immigrants, I mean, that's what they knew, right? Was church life.
And if you think about it too, those immigrants, wherever they were from, they would come together from their
Mhm.
area. The language barriers, I mean, even the way that they lived their lives was completely different from one another. So, but one thing that they all had in common was the churches. So
Mhm.
they were able to kind of come together for one reason, one purpose, and I think from there it kind of grew into this. And I mean, it really stretched out to the Johnstown area.
Oh, sure.
I mean, and I don't know that much about Johnstown, but I don't know which came first. I don't know if people were coming to Windber and they kind of stretched out to Johnstown, or if it was vice versa. But the late 1800s, you think about the architecture in that time period too. You had the big tall ceilings with the
Mhm.
glass, you had on-site cemeteries and burial plots that weren't a lot, so they cost a pretty penny to get those burial plots, and they were almost all the churches were almost kind of the same format, right? With that just architecture, with the sanctuary, the balconies, with that acoustic, where they had the people coming in playing music, singing their songs, and it just like we were talking about, it was the social environment that they craved, and that I think that kind of carried them through for the most part. And from my recollection, I believe this church in particular was called the Holy Child of Jesus.
Okay.
Why? I don't know. It was a
You
Catholic
remember
church.
way more than I do on that. I hope you had to like write that down, because I would not have remembered that.
Well, this was one of the ones that we had to that never transferred over when we went to our .org. So it's kind of one of the more recent ones that I can think of in our past history. So it is kind of fresh on the top of my mind. But outside of that, there wasn't a lot to it. It had its name, it had its areas inside. There was one particular local lore, though, and I think you remember that as much, right? The Irish priest.
Yep. So this one, if everybody remembers from our last episode, we talked about the types of hauntings, right? The intelligent hauntings, the residual type hauntings, the poltergeist hauntings. We got a little bit into demonic activities, right? We talked about all of these different types of situations, let's call it, that we get ourselves into whenever we're, going to a haunted location, quote unquote. We kind of have to decipher what is it, right? This location was very much that. We didn't have a lot to go off of. Mm-mm. Right, we were one of the first groups, I think maybe the second group to ever investigate here.
Yep, it was very early on, and I think that when Blair had originally purchased it, he didn't know anything about it either until he started having some local groups come out and talk to him, and even the Historical Society, and that's the only way that we were able to find out about this priest. The old Irish crass, I guess you could say, no crap given, but that we don't even have a name, and I don't know if Blair ever got that far. I know that we had the name Dave come up quite a bit on our spirit box, but outside of that,
Dave doesn't sound like an old Irish priest.
Not at all. That's exactly what I was going to say. That doesn't seem to tie together.
It sounds like a guy from Dormont that goes to the bar and likes to yell at his wife when he gets home.
Probably a coal miner.
It's probably a coal miner. But so I want to get up before we get into the priest, like this. We say church very loosely on this location, because when we were there, it was far from a church.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And I think this is important to understand, because we're going to get into this old Irish priest and why he's upset, right? And why he doesn't like people there. But I think it's important that we hit on what was his space when we got there, right? Blair is a very talented artist.
Yes.
He's into art. He is into movies. He has such an eclectic taste about him. And if anybody ever has the opportunity to go to the Grand Midway Hotel that he still owns in Winver, you can actually stay the night there. The entire place is an art installation in its own right. And this place, this church, former church, was very much the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It was just a big open room. There's no more pews.
Nope.
There's very slight suggestions of what it used to be, other than, like you said, the architecture to it, the outside of it. There were still some crosses around, right? They had the little cemetery in the back that were kind of kitschy names that people had put on it. But this place is much more an art installation and truly almost like a museum to Winber past.
Well, and I think that's what he was going for. Mm-hmm. I mean, if, like you were saying, if you ever go to Grand Midway, Blair comes, it shouts his name. Like that's
Mhm.
it's got his imprint all over it. And before, you know, him and the church ended up parting ways, that's what he was going for, you know. And on top of what he started to use as like a mini library, of a bunch of just like old writings. I believe he had some movies, but I believe he, with his Anne Rice collection, I mean, he was really trying to start this to be its own. It's a museum in its own right.
Mhm.
I mean, that was his goal. That's what he saw it as. People were going to come to Windber for Grand Midway and the Renaissance Church, which I believe he was actually in the process of a name change. If I believe, I
Okay.
think he was going to go. He was just going for Midway Church or something like that, which I don't think that it ever actually went through to that point.
Okay.
But I think that's what he was going for. It was, you know, it all ultimately tied together in his mind.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to ask him about that next week during
Yeah.
his during our questions with him, because I'll be honest with you, even prior to, you know, like rewind 5 or 6 years or whatever it's been, I don't remember a lot about this place. I remember the investigation very well, but I don't remember much of the history of it and how
Sure.
he got his hands on it. And I would really like to dig more into that
There
when
were
we
so
have
many
him on.
unanswered questions.
Sure.
I mean, even years later, I'm sure it's still the same.
Mhm.
I don't actually know if he had opened its doors to paranormal investigation. Like you said, we were like the second team in there, and
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know if it actually continued after that. I don't know much about it. I haven't heard much about it. And then, I mean, I think we randomly found out through a text message that they parted ways and the community is going to
Mhm.
use it as something else. So, you know, that was that.
Yep. Yep. So now let's get into this old Irish priest, because now we just told you why this thing's upset, right? This church, even before Blair had acquired the church, it had fallen into a state of
Disrepair.
disrepair. That's a
Yeah.
great way to put it. You know, and then Blair came in and he tried to, you know, really bring some life back to it. He did not want to rebuild a church out of it, obviously, but he, you know, this spray paint mural that you're showing of Jesus on the front of the altar. I mean, this is the kind of style that Blair brought to the space, right? So it's not a
Absolutely.
disrespectful style by any means,
But
but
it's
I'm,
different.
I'm sure if you're some old Irish guy that used to be a priest there, it would kind of get like put a little bit of itching powder into your britches there after a little while. You know
I
what I
mean, that's a
mean?
good way of putting that. Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't normal by any sense of the word. And if you think about that time frame, you know, those people were structured and
Hmm.
their mindsets, you couldn't change them. So, I mean, no wonder why, right? I mean, all the
Yeah.
change, and you hear about that a lot. You know, when there's major construction renovation to a building, it kind of, I don't want to say unleashes or unlocks, but it's another reason for these energies to kind of come out and make themselves known. I can't imagine him being real happy about the changes, right? But was something that he had no control over.
Hmm. So this priest that people have, I don't know if people have seen him in the church. I don't remember any
Shadows.
conversation. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't
It was
remember any like
shadows, which
full body apparitions.
we captured pretty
Hmm.
incredibly.
Hmm.
We had no idea at the time, but yeah, there were footsteps. People would see the shadow pacing back and forth, but that was it. There weren't a lot of people in there either, so that didn't help
Yeah.
anything. You know, it didn't help build stories or tell the story about the place, anything. So,
Right.
you know, who's to say what it really was, what this, why he was so mad? No one really, he didn't have a chance to tell anybody.
Right.
And even as its museum and home for these Anne Rice dolls, it didn't really amount to anything in the long run because it wasn't publicized.
Yeah.
Not like it should have been, and I don't think he ever had the opportunity because when we were there, it was still under construction pretty heavily.
Hmm.
You know, so it never got to the point where he actually had the chance to even have like a grand opening. They had DracuCon, I believe it was called there, a few times, but that
Okay.
was like the only major event that took place annually at the church.
Yeah, so when you first walk into the space, it's a massive, massive gathering area. Obviously where they would have pews. Straight ahead of you, it's undeniable. It was the altar space, right? Like I said, there was this huge spray painted mural. It was absolutely gorgeous on the front, on the back of the altar of Jesus. And this is the area where, of course, when you go into this place, you are drawn to that area, right? Because of the painting, because of what it is as an altar that's supposed to be the most sacred space in a church. Right. That's where the priest stands to give their sermons. If you're in like a Catholic or a congregation and a religious practice that practices Holy Communion, they have the Eucharist up in the front of the church. That's kind of where everything happens. Yep. Exactly. So you're very drawn to this area, and this is where this priest is really rumored to hang out. Right? Sure. As a shadow figure, or just something that people see out of the corner of their eyes around this altar. So again, that's where we started, right?
Yeah, and I know even early on we were getting like cat ball things happening, like just some random
cat
stuff. Cat ball things. Add that into the dictionary. Cat ball
For the uninitiated, cat ball things. It is not something weird. It is literally a cat ball.
It was just when we were setting things up, right? And even throughout the night, there was like to the right of this, if you're looking at this mural, there's like an exit door right there. So I remember, especially early on, we were like, man, there's car doors, there's going to be people, like we're going to be hearing this stuff all night. But eventually it stopped and we kept hearing those noises, the bangings, and we were just, it was a lot in this little area.
and I think that's such a really good point that you talked about the sound outside. This place, this town, after it reaches a certain time, it just goes
dead,
for lack of a better term. Dead, right?
I knew you were going there. Yep.
The cars don't drive by anymore. There's nobody out on the streets talking. It's just completely quiet all of a sudden, right? There's nothing. There's no causation to it, and that is what really started to set the tone for us.
Yes,
because we got into this area of the altar where we have the cat balls set up. We started to get some movement of these cat balls. They were lighting up when we weren't standing there. And we decided we didn't start to spend a lot of time there, but what we did was we kind of trained a few trail cams in that area. And we just kind of let things be so that the space could kind of equalize and normalize around us, and we could kind of leave it to its own devices of the altar, and then we would come back later. So once we started to get some of this movement captured with the cat balls, we set up our trail cams and we just left them for the night, and then we came back at the very end of the night, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we sandwiched it as per your Winber sandwiches. But what we didn't realize at the time is with those trail cams, we actually got a lot. I mean, they ultimately didn't amount to the communication we were hoping for, but from a paranormal activity level, we got a lot for that little area, and for nothing to really be talked about there. I know the biggest thing we've talked about, and we showed it last episode, was the shadow. But on top of that, there were also some very strange lights that were occurring. It even coincided with you as you're sitting there at the altar. You can see these, like you can sense these things moving, and you can see that these lights were just coming and going. And there were a few different situations here from different angles that you could see these lights just for lack of a better term, kind of activating. And they seem to approach not only the altar, not only you, but the dolls in that doll case. And if you look at some of the stills that we caught, they almost paused at that doll case. And it takes, how quickly these videos are, they're 10-second clips as it is. So you really have to slow it down and watch these things, and you can see them kind of come straight at it and pause, as if to look at these dolls and really focus the attention, like you're saying, on these dolls, this collection of dolls that they obviously didn't like. And we'll get more into that later. Yeah. but these strange lights, it culminated with this shadow, which like ties directly into the local lore of this man.
Mhm.
And I mean, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but I think with some changing of hues, some editing, you can see clearly this shadow moving back and forth. And I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious in my mind. I've seen it a lot, obviously. But we're right up against the ad break, so we're going to get into the ad break. And then when we come out, we're going to get into some other areas, but then we're really going to touch on this poltergeist that we experienced here for the first time ever in the history of Iron City Paranormal. So stick with us, and we will get back into part 2 of American Renaissance Church.
The truth, it's out there, and it's waiting for you. The Unexplained Network is your source for the best in paranormal programming, live video streaming, and audio streaming from hauntings, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, and the ever-expanding realm of the unexplained. Listen live or on demand now on Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, and Pockets all over the World Wide Web. The Unexplained Network, where unexplained lives. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com. Every ghost story and creature feature lies a far more terrifying truth. The real monsters wear human faces. In the chilling book, All Monsters Are Human, from Derek Smith, 10 Twisted Tales expose the darkest parts of the human soul. From killers hiding in plain sight to obsessions turned deadly. Each story invites you to step into a shadowed world where morality unravels, and the only thing more terrifying than what lurks in the dark is who. These aren't just horror stories. They're reflections of ourselves, showing what happens when fear, rage, guilt, and desire take control. Visit unexmedia.com for more information on All Monsters Are Human from Derek Smith. And you can purchase them at amazon.com from unexmedia.com.
So we're in this massive building, this old church, right? We are starting to get extremely frustrated by really any lack of any immediate interactions during this investigation. We're standing at the front of this very large communal space with all of the pews removed, and now those pew spaces are filled with these massive life-size porcelain dolls that once belonged to the famed author Anne Rice, who Blair Murphy, the former owner of this church, had acquired through his relationship with Anne Rice after her passing. He had acquired a large portion of her, these giant, creepy, to be direct about them, absolutely freakish dolls. Some of these were as big as 4 or 5 feet tall.
One of them was life size. I mean,
they're huge.
It was, and I believe right before we got there, probably a few days before, they had one fall and break, and it shattered everywhere, right? Which we found a reason for, I think.
Yeah, so we're surrounded by these dolls. If you're facing the altar, these dolls are behind you. If you're looking at the dolls, the altar's behind you. There is nowhere that feels comfortable to look at one way or
Literally
another.
surrounded by them.
This one that you're showing here, Derek, this one is the one that I remember really creeped me out. That one, it makes it look much larger than it truly is.
Yeah.
This picture, but there are just some dolls in this space that have a vibe to them.
Oh yeah.
And
I can
we
only
were-
imagine what's tied to the dolls too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like anything with dolls, right? There's just a lot of emotion. There's a lot of joy. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of really anything that, people find solace in dolls whenever they're younger. I know my daughter does that now, right? She's got a doll named Maya that is her everything. If she's happy, she takes Maya places. If she's sad, she hugs Maya. So this doll is just.
You think about the old, like the older age that these dolls are coming from, and they didn't have a lot of other toys or things to play with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was it.
Sure. Yeah, so these dolls, who knows, right? Maybe they have something to do with the activity within the church. Maybe it's this grumpy Irish dude that was the priest there previously. Whatever it was, didn't want to talk to us, right? We got the lights lighting up. We've got like some orbs here and there. We've got the cat balls moving, not on command, but whenever the heck they wanted to do it, right? We started jumping up and down, my fat butts jumping up and down on the altar, trying to hope my knees don't give in every time I hit the ground.
I mean, just think about it too. We were starting to get the noises too, like other things that were like, okay, we're getting somewhere, right? Or, it's directing us to this or that area.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't happening.
No, and we rightfully so just got a little peeved about the whole dang thing, right?
It's not uncommon,
No.
It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but what have we done in the past? We kind of like settle ourselves, take ourselves out of the situation and move on, right?
Yep.
That's all you can do. And I think that we have learned how to do that.
Yeah, I agree. As we've learned over the years, when we start to get frustrated, we start to get mad.
Yeah.
And to
it's that emotional level.
Correct. And one of the most dangerous things that we can do as investigators is to take anger into an investigation, because that will manifest itself into things that we don't want.
Right.
Right. It will manifest into spirits that don't want to deal with us. It will manifest into being scratched, maybe having a demon follow us, maybe not, we don't know, right? But one of our primary focuses is to keep a cool head and keep very positive and, dare I say, loving with our approach, just because we do not want to risk the bad stuff that could happen if we do it mad.
Right.
So we had to slow down. We had to take ourselves and backpedal and almost turn tail and go find something else to do. Like, I'm going to, if you're not going to play ball, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Right. But we didn't go home. We went downstairs.
Yeah,
right?
Just a different area, right? Just another creepy, old, dark area.
And I am not a guy that likes basements. I don't like them. I'm typically terrified of doing it. Like, when we do an investigation with a basement, my favorite thing to hear the owners of a place say is, you can't go in the basement because it's unsafe. Okay. That's perfect. I guess we can't make it there this time.
But if you can go in the basement, two things happen. We want to, and we eventually get to it.
Yes.
But number two, it usually happens at the end.
Yes.
We save
it. Yes, because I think that both of us are a little bit afraid to go in the basement sometimes.
There's always that creep factor to a basement.
There is.
You can't escape that. Let alone
I try.
Basement.
I try to escape it, but it always finds a way.
Oh, always. This place was no different as far as the creep factor goes, but I know we set up a trail camera down there. And I know at the time we ended up getting some things, but it was the same stuff, right? It was the lights lighting up. It was the strange knocking noises. Like we even thought that somebody was following us. We had the shuffling footsteps.
Yep.
So we thought again, like, hey, we're getting somewhere where somebody wants to talk to us. Guess what?
And they were, I think, am I misremembering this? They are the worst kind of footsteps I always hate to hear when we do an investigation. It is not the guy that's like marching in a marching band with nice crisp steps, you know,
It
and
was like the weird, like a peg-legged.
yes, it's the dragging.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm too weak or I'm too moody or something to pick up my feet, so I'm just gonna drag myself along.
I do
hate
remember that, but we were also happy because we thought that was going to be the priest. You know, we
This
thought
is
that's
true.
what we were getting. So
Yep.
at the time it was good, but literally the only thing that came out of that basement was some weird I don't know what.
That's some Blair Witch Project stuff right there.
I don't know what it was. You know, we tried to find out. The camera wasn't even out of place. So what happened? We have no idea. You know, we tried to slow it down, maybe see a face or see a hand or something.
Yeah.
Nothing. There was nothing. It was just this weird movement.
So what I think is remarkable about that capture is this is a camera that is on a tripod.
Yes.
There is no way that camera could move around like this.
Nope.
And it actually does look like the camera is moving. It is not something that is
100%. And that was
in front of the camera moving. It looks like the camera is moving.
It looked like somebody picked it up. I remember asking you after we watched it back, because mind you, it's a trail cam. We don't see it till after the fact because we just want to capture everything. I remember asking you after we're reviewing this, and it's like, did you pick it up? Because that's what it looks like to me, is somebody put their hand over the front of it and picked it up and moved it. We were together the entire time.
Yep.
And neither of us are going to go out into that basement by ourselves. So,
right.
What was it?
This is the good part about having a small team when we do investigations, because we can account for each other the entire time we are doing an investigation. So if there is something like this that happens, we know that it wasn't the other person. So there's nobody else there.
We're like attached to the hip most of the time in these things.
Partly out of partly out of our investigative practices. The other part because we're terrified to be alone in some of these places, right?
Mind you, but basement.
Yeah, we are usually together. So when stuff like this happens, like we really don't have an answer for it.
So following that, if I remember correctly, this is one of the times that spirit light, paralight, started going like crazy when we were heading up to the balcony.
Yes.
And we were kind of using
it. We were kind of using it like a lantern, if I remember correctly.
Yes. We were just using it because the steps weren't wonderful. The building was under construction. We were like holding it by it like a lantern closer to the ground to try to see what we were stepping on, and it just started going crazy. And then we kind of followed it, and it took us up to the base, up to the balcony, up to that next story up.
So for those that aren't familiar, paralights are essentially glorified REM pods. I think they're a little bit more sensitive than REM pods are, but we cannot figure out exactly what triggers them.
But we do know that people cannot.
Yeah, like with a REM pod, when you go over near it, the REM pod goes off, it lights up, it makes a noise, and you go, "Ooh, see, that's me getting next to it."
It works.
We can't make it do that.
It works off the electromagnetic field, and it's extremely sensitive. That's pretty much what we have to this point with the paralight. But it has given us some pretty incredible results. Again, it's one of our things that we cast the net. We go fishing.
Absolutely.
So, but it's worked tremendously, and we couldn't figure that out. So it took us up that back staircase, up to that balcony, which is kind of where we were planning on sleeping. So it wasn't that great of a feeling at the moment.
Right. That's when we're sleeping places that are supposed to be haunted, like we try to find a place where we feel, for
safe.
Lack of a better term, safe, right? We don't want to feel uncomfortable there because we know that we're not gonna get any sleep. So this balcony area, it had that overview of the entire space. We weren't able to see that creepy thing in the back of the photo that you're showing, that tall statue thing that Blair
Yes.
has made. Like, you couldn't see that, so you didn't have any visual things that put your mind into a tizzy or anything. So when we went up into this balcony area, I believe we tried to use the REM pod more as a way, because this is before we were running the ghost buffets.
That's correct.
The
We didn't
EMF
have
pumps.
those. Yeah, we
So-
didn't have those at this point.
So we were kind of falling back on our previous experience using the white noise coming off of the spirit box,
Yep.
not only to communicate, but also to empower the spirits a little
Yeah,
bit.
it was
and give
providing
them
more energy.
Yep. So that's what we were doing at the time. So we're sitting at the top of the attic. Actually, I think we set our sleeping bags up. We weren't going to go to sleep right then.
No,
we
but
kind
we
of
had
just
them
took
set
the
up so we
time.
could just chill out.
Yep.
That's
So we-
exactly what we were doing.
Yeah, so I think there were some couple chairs up there, if I remember. So we kind of just hung out in the chairs after we set up, and we were running the spirit box just to get that noise out there, right? It's a big open space, so that sound is reverberating off this entire cathedralized ceiling area, and that sound is just going everywhere.
And I don't know what it was either about this area, but as soon as we got up there, things really started to open up. Now,
Mhm.
when I say open up, most of the time I mean communication, right?
Mhm.
Like we start getting answers or somebody
Yep.
wants to start talking to us. That wasn't the case. What we started to get were noises, and it started exactly how we started this episode, with that loud rattling of the door.
What was that? Is that you?
Mind you, it was just the two of us. We were sitting there running the spirit box and
Mhm.
just kind of chilling out. And then all of a sudden, that
What was that? Is that you?
it literally felt like it moved the building. It
It
was
did.
strong.
Yep. So those doors in the photo, for those that are online and watching, the doors right in the middle of the church, that is the main entryway into the church. Those were the doors that were, it just seemed like they were, being shaken so hard,
And
that
they were
gonna
heavy.
they were going to fall off the darn hinges.
And so much so that we actually contacted Blair. Like we texted him, like, "Are you trying to get in?" That was our first instinct. Is
Mhm.
he wanted something? He wanted to talk to us, whatever.
Yep.
And I think there was a little bit of a delay, but when he finally got back to us, he's like, "No, I got people over here at the Grand Midway, and I'm kind of keeping busy." And at that point, we go outside. We're walking around. We're like, "Is there somebody out here trying to get in?" There was nothing. There was nobody out. Exactly what you were saying before. Windber, just small town, shuts down. There's nobody out. And from there, though, this stuff just kept coming. And the next thing that we had heard was I don't even know what it was at the time. We found out later, but it was just like, how do you describe it? Just like something being kicked or something being like a pebble tossed, right?
Yeah, it was just something hard, almost bouncing across the floor.
Is there somebody in here? Is there somebody in here?
I mean, and you could hear it echo, right? And that's the kind of stuff that just kind of kept happening.
Mhm.
So eventually, we didn't find it out till the next morning, but what we did find out is that it was this one doll missing her hand.
Yep.
And we picked it up and put it with her, but that was our best guess, is that these dolls were physically starting to fall apart. This, like you said, it's our first run-in with a poltergeist. And whether it didn't like the dolls or it was just something easy to start messing with and making noise and causing chaos, we never really got an answer for that. But, what is a poltergeist? It's a loud spirit. And that's all it was doing. It was drawing its attention, or it was drawing our attention from the energy it was putting out there with these things. And it just kept happening all night. And I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I think I was up in arms. Like, I'm like, there's somebody else in here, right? There's somebody messing with us, because it was so it was strong. You could literally feel the energy shift.
Well, and that's if anybody has ever investigated with us, and anybody that will investigate with us, the number one way to upset either of us is to take this and make it a joke.
Right.
Right? It is to take paranormal investigation and try to make entertainment out of it, because that goes against everything that we believe in.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, and that you could hear you say it as soon as you heard that thing hit the ground. Is there somebody in here? And you're upset, right? Because
Right.
we didn't want something coming in and jeopardizing the integrity of our investigation, or
Exactly.
somebody coming in. At that point is where we were at.
And that's
right?
the first instinct.
Mhm.
Is, you know, we're protecting what we're doing here. We're protecting the property. We're respecting the history of this place and the owner. So for somebody to come in and start messing with stuff, or, you know, try to turn it into an entertainment, an episode of Ghost Hunters or whatever, like, that's not what we're doing here.
Right. And I don't believe at the time we were there, when we heard all of this stuff happening, we did not identify this as a poltergeist at that time.
No, and I don't think that it really even clicked until our drive home the next morning.
Correct.
When we started really thinking about things, or even maybe the next morning when Blair came in and we started telling him about all of it.
It was the next morning at some point. I don't remember exactly the situation, but it was sometime the next morning. Like, we did not go around this place thinking there's a poltergeist here.
Right.
Right. We didn't have Slimer in the back of our head, you know, floating around drinking all the ectoplasm or anything. Like, we really didn't know. And it was kind of taking all of these pieces of evidence, so to speak, and the lack of response whenever things were happening, and, you know, just the noisy nature of it. Like you said earlier, the object manipulation, the breaking of the hands. We kind of just put it together that possibly, and we don't know for sure, right? But
Sure.
Our gut instinct, maybe a little bit more than a gut instinct, is pointing to possibly a poltergeist activity.
Well, and what's so unique about this place is that I think it was layered. Not only was it a poltergeist, I do think that priest was there. I think we captured that residual. Like, he wasn't talking to us, but what happened? We kept seeing the shadows that people were talking about. He was on his altar. He was going back and forth, side to side. We heard the footsteps. You know, he's still there. That's all he's ever done. That's all he ever will do. He's going to keep preaching up there to an empty audience if need be. But I think that's what makes this place, and every place we go, really, just so there's just something special to it.
Sure. Yeah. Every location has its unique footprint, and it's a unique fingerprint on the story of Iron City Paranormal, right? Everywhere we go, we each have these personal experiences, these personal feelings about a space that stick with us much longer than just the night while we're there. You know, right. If we're doing it right, it impacts us on a much deeper level. And this is one of those places for sure for us.
And it's one of those things that people ask us, like, they'll ask us, what's your favorite part of doing this? And my response more often than not is the reviewing. It's the after fact, because you get the story, you get the experience at the time, but then exactly like this was a perfect situation. You're able to put the pieces together eventually. And it just, you can't beat that feeling when things start to fall into place.
And it's a little annoying that it takes that, right? It's a little bit annoying that it doesn't come together. Now, sometimes it will in the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will kind of make sense, and then, you know, we put the pieces together as we go. A lot of the times it's not like that, right? Because we're capturing evidence on equipment that, while we're not even in an area that we don't know about until you look at it.
What's my favorite thing that I always say after an investigation? We probably got more than we thought.
Absolutely.
Because time and time again, that's the case. And again, this was a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll send like handwritten notes to the group and be like, "This is just 5 minutes of an audio that we recorded that has like 40 line items of things that you heard or like things that you picked up or whatever during the review. I mean, it's very much the case. And like I say, I wish it's kind of an annoying thing, right? I wish because a lot of places like this one, we can't go back here.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a one and done. You're right.
All of the stuff that we gathered while we were here, we can't go back and validate. We can't go back and use them as a starting point. This was our chance, and I think that we did well for what we had.
And I think that makes it mean more though, is that we experience these things. We will never experience this place like this again.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places we have the opportunity to go back. We have the chance, like you said, to verify things, to build off of it. This was one of those places. It was a one and done,
Mm-hmm.
and we aren't going to have the chance to go back there. Nobody's going to have the chance to build off of what we did,
Mm-hmm.
and that comes down to the para-unity thing, which I still don't really think exists that much. But being able to build off of each other and being able to take what we have and build off of it, that opportunity is just not there.
No, and I want let's dig into that para-unity thing a little bit, because I know it's something that you're very passionate about speaking out. It's not speaking out against, but speaking about.
Well, there should be more of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to, is we're not in this for the fame and fortune and, whatever the clicks, like you say.
Right.
That's not the point. We want to be able to tell the stories of these people, and we don't have the time, we don't have the money to put into these places to be investigating them every single night, every weekend. We venture out and we explore different areas, and we put a lot of time and effort into telling our tale.
Mm-hmm.
Building our experiences and putting a word to them. Why? And whenever we're researching, we look up what other teams do. We try
Absolutely.
to build off of that. And that gives us a good footing, a good way to jump into the next thing. Why are people not doing that more often? Pick up where we left off. That just doesn't happen. It should happen a lot more than it actually does. Why have we not got a message from somebody that's researching these places and say, hey, where'd you leave off? A few teams have done that, and I commend them for it.
Absolutely.
But why doesn't it happen more would be my question. We message people. We're like, hey, where should we go? What are the hot spots? What's some of the stuff you got? Let's build off of it.
Yeah, give us some names. And we try to keep it as Derek focused as possible, right? You try to keep that stuff under your belt a little bit so that we have the pathway without biasing the evidence.
Exactly.
Right?
You're right.
So you know about it, but you don't step in and say, oh, this group got this, or I heard the name Bobby when clearly it wasn't Bobby, but that was just what the other group got. We don't let bias. We don't let it bias our evidence at all.
But it helps build.
It absolutely does, because it's like we were just talking about. It took us all night to get something to build off of.
Right.
So I think it would be an opportunity wasted if we didn't look to another group that possibly went in there and did something, which we couldn't find, right? There was nothing on this place, but you got to start somewhere. And if you can start closer to the end than the beginning, like for a one night in a place,
right?
There's your para-unity that we're talking about. And when teams are so focused on TikTok and YouTube shorts and immediate gratification as far as
their followers, how many clicks they have, it's not the point. You're missing the point of doing this.
It is, or you're just doing it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
Right. So it's fine. We enjoy ourselves regardless.
Off that soapbox.
Let's get off our soapbox. But I will say that this church, this building, will forever hold a special place for us.
First ever poltergeist.
Potentially our first poltergeist, baby's first poltergeist, and our last. I don't think we've experienced this since.
And if we have, not to this level.
No, but it was much more than just a haunted place for us. And
these lesser known places always end up having that. We get our own experiences. We start from square one. We have absolutely nothing to go off of. And I think that alone, we get more out of those kinds of things.
Yep. So next week we're going to be talking with Blair. I'm super excited to touch base with him again. It's been a couple of years since we've talked with him, and I love the guy. He's a great guy to talk to. But unfortunately, Derek, our time has come to an end. And I had a great night.
Too
once
fast.
again. Too fast every time. But Derek, thank you once again for going down this path with us. Everybody, thanks for joining in. Every journey across a bridge leaves something behind, a question, a feeling, or a moment that lingers longer than expected. And no matter how far into the unknown we wander, there comes a time to turn back. Thank you for once again crossing the bridge with us tonight and for making the journey safely back home. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and remember, you can always return from the other side of the bridge. Toodles,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.